Hi divers, Alec, Peirce again, Scuba 2000, another tech tip. You know, I enjoy doing these as much as you, like at least some of you anyway, have had comments that you really enjoy watching. And I really enjoy it too. We don't have any script, Kevin and I. He tries to be the director, it doesn't work. This is just me talking about my experience. This is the things that I have seen here in the service center over many, many years, almost over 40 years, almost 50 years in the business, and my own personal experiences of diving. I still dive. I'll soon be 70, and I still dive every year, a lot. So I just got a lot of experience, not necessarily smarter than anybody else, but I'm going to share some of these things with you. That's why tech tips. So I really enjoy doing it, and I get an idea, or Kevin gets an idea, or some of your suggestions, which I really, really appreciate, and I say, hey, I can talk about that, so here I am, talking again. Hope you enjoy this particular one, and maybe catch a couple of hints that would make your diving a little bit easier, a little bit more fun. Big deal, that's the way it's supposed to be, right? And maybe a little safer too. So today we're going to talk about the first stage hose setup. What the heck is that? Well, yeah, the first stage, as you know, is a part of the regulator that goes on to the tank. That's the air, the air from the tank goes into the first stage. It's the first part of the regulator that it meets, hence first stage. The second stage is the part that goes into your mouth. But the way that the hoses for your regulator, that is the primary regulator, the secondary regulator, octopus or safe second, whatever you call it, then you may have a pressure gauge, you may have a transmitter, you may have a buoyancy compensator inflator hose, you may have a dry suit inflator hose. There's a lot of hoses, you see. They all connect to the first stage. Well, how is that done? And what are the different possibilities for how those hoses connect to the first stage? Let's talk about it. I have in my hands here a pretty conventional regulator setup. Conventional in the sense that this is the way most regulators you rent or buy or use are set up. Let me explain how this is set up. And as it happens, this is my own regulator, my own personal regulator. It's a very, very lightweight sealed first stage. I like lightweight. We travel a great deal. And sealed because the steel is good. If it's sealed, it's good for cold water as well. I don't say it doesn't freeze. Don't. If somebody says there's reg will never freeze, tell them to call me. Because any reg will freeze. I've seen them all freeze. So I've just put this onto a tank here, and let's take a little peek at this to see how my hoses are set up. Okay, first stage on the tank. Now, first of all, when I put this on, I remember how to do that. There's two ways to put it on. You can put it on like this, the proper way, in which case the mouthpieces you see come out on the right-hand side. I'm standing behind the tank, so I can see how it's going to be on my body. When I put this on, I'll be standing right there, facing that way. So this is where, so the primary comes out of one of the low pressure ports into my mouth. Perfect. The secondary, octopus, safe second, whatever you call it, comes out on the same side, comes under my right arm, comes up and hangs onto the BC. And then the BC inflator hose, I want that to go over my left shoulder, see it's on the left, over the left shoulder and down into the BC. And then the pressure gauge, if you have an SPG on a hose, goes under your left arm and hangs from a hook down there. So this is your setup. It's very simple. Turn the air on and jump in the water. Let's have fun. About as simple as I can get. You might notice, by the way, that I'm using these very, very nice, lightweight and very strong flex hoses. You can't do this with your hoses, assuming you're using rubber hoses. You see, they fold out very easy. They're very, very tough. They're awfully nice. Reduce the weight and so on. And any regulator and any hose can be changed to those flexible hoses if you want. It just makes it a little easier to use, a little lighter to travel with. But this is your standard setup. And there's not really too much to change on this. If you wanted to add another pressure hose, supposing you decided you wanted to use a dry suit, well then on the same side, on the left-hand side, most dry suit inflators are on the left, although they're adjustable, you would take out this little plug, and then you would put into that hole I have one right here. Sorry, Kev. You would put into that hole your dry suit inflator. Just screws into the same hole, like so. It's all ring sealed. So now, the same regulator now, primary, secondary, BC, SPG, and dry suit hose. You see? So that's the way regs are normally set up. Now, I personally don't use an SPG. You can see that this hose is rubber. This is not mine. I put that in there just for illustrative purposes. What I use is a computer. I have a wrist-mounted computer for my to calculate my no decompression times and so on. And it's air integrated, meaning my computer also measures my air. So I have this little device, a transmitter, that goes into a high-pressure port. Most regulators today have 2 high pressure ports. So I put this into the high pressure port like that, you see. And there you go. And this sends the information to my wrist. I can see my air pressure, my depth, my time. You know, it tells me what to do. Come up to 10 feet, stop for 3 minutes, whatever it happens to be. You have 20 minutes remaining, and it calculates my air pressure, all that. That's pretty common these days. So that's what I do. If you want to, as you can see, I have my remaining air supply transmitter on my regulator. I also have an SPG. Now, I don't do that. I don't have an SPG on mine. Computers today are, in my opinion, almost 100% reliable. Almost. They're just as reliable as analog gauges. So I don't have an SPG coming under my left arm and hanging there. I just have the transmitter. So I just plug up that high pressure port, and there you go. So this is my regulator. Primary, secondary, BC, and transmitter. And a dry suit hose if I go dry suit diving, which I do. We just came back from Alaska. Fantastic. Anyway, there you go. Simple. Now, it's handy to stand behind it just and look at it, because there you see the hose is going to the right places on your body. If you put it on wrong, you will spot it almost immediately. You can do that. You can put it on upside down, wrong side up, upside down, whatever you want to call it. And when you do that, you'll see, oh, there's something wrong here. Because now the BC hose comes over your right shoulder. No good. Try shoot. No good. Oh, gall darn, I have it on upside down. Take it off and flip it over. And then it's on properly. Okay, that's straightforward. And those are quick and easy to change. Let's get rid of this and look at another kind of regulator. Another style of first stage is like this. Very common as well. A lot of the regulators today look like this. Okay. Let's put this on, and then I'll explain the slight differences. What's the difference? Well, look. Hey, that's pretty handy. A swivel, built-in swivel. And when you buy a regulator, the people in the dive store will explain the advantages of having a swivel. You read about it in the catalogs, and so you have a swivel. What's the advantage? Well, with a swivel, you put the regulator on. That's it. Just put it on. And then afterwards, you say, okay, these go over there. So move them over there. There you go. That's what it does. It allows it to swivel. So you can now move the particular hoses to where they should be. BC, primary, and octopus, just like that. Also, the other advantage of a swivel is that if this is in your mouth, okay, you probably have all experienced this, and you turn your head a little bit, it tends to pull normally. Well, okay, so if I turn my head this way, oh, look what happens. The swivel turns too. So it reduces the push and pull in your mouth. I'm not sure if you've ever been diving and you turn your head to the right and you find the regulators pushing out the side of your mouth. Or you go to your left like this and the regulator pulls out of your mouth. Well, with the swivel, that's reduced. Not necessarily removed entirely, it certainly is reduced. So the swivel has 2 benefits. It allows you more quickly, more easily to assemble your regulator on the tank. And secondly, it can make it a bit more comfortable. Now, there's one downside to this particular setup, and that downside is very simple to see. Look, see right here? Here's the top of the valve, and now here's the top of the regulator. That's about 2 inches. So now this assembly here is now 2 inches taller than what it needs to be necessary, or what it would be with a more common regulator. It's 2 inches taller. It's not an issue. If you are a fairly normally tall person, meaning most people over 5'8", 5'9", say, or 5'10", or in that area, then this setup is just fine. If you're over 6 feet, this is what you want. Okay? Sometimes people come in and say, my regulator bumps the back of my head. Well, there's only 2 reasons for that. Either you're particularly short, we'll deal with that in a minute, or your tank is too high in the harness. If you're relatively tall, say, let's choose 5'10", okay? If you're 5'10" or taller, this is probably the most advantageous way to have it with the swivel on top, okay? If you're still bumping your head, first of all, stop looking up. You go like this, you might bump your head. But anyway, but the other thing you do is drop the tank in the harness. You can have the BC harness come right up to here. So the top strap, if you have 2, or the strap, the main strap, could be as high as this on the tank. The tank won't fall out. If the strap's way down here, now the tank is high up, you're going to bump your head. Yeah, so move the harness up 3 or 4 inches and see if that doesn't stop the problem. That's if you're a fairly tall person, 5'10" or taller. Now, if you're not, if you're short, there'll be lots and lots of divers, junior divers, and lots of people, but basically are just shorter people. And so they might be 5'4", 5'5", 5'6", 5'7", in that area, you know, shorter than 5'10". Let's use that as a parameter. This can continue to be a problem. Even if you move the BC strap up meaning you lower the tank, still sometimes you'll bump your head. And not only is it annoying, but it could potentially be a problem. So what do you do in this particular case? Well, what you can do, very simply, is turn the regulator over. Now look. You see the difference? You see? Flat. So we have effectively dropped the regulator down, how much? 4 inches, right? It was up here 2 inches, 2 and 2 is 4. We've actually dropped the regulator by 4 inches in total. You've gained only 2 inches, but it's flipped all around. Ah, gosh darn it, now we got a problem though. Son of a gun. Because now the pressure gauge is on the right-hand side. That's no good. Okay, well, what we'll do is we'll take the pressure gauge out of the right-hand side. And we'll move it around here and put it back where it belongs on the left-hand side of the first stage. That's easy. Okay, that was easy. Oh, that's not all, though. Look at all these hoses are backwards. God darn it. So if you decide with the dive store from whom you purchase your regulator that you would like to have the regulator mounted lower so it doesn't bump your head, then whoever is in the dive store, the service people, they will have to change the hoses around so that you end up with the proper configuration. And that's easy to do. So the octopus, let's see, the octopus goes in here. I think I have this right, Kevin. You just watch for me. The octopus, safe second, goes in here. So it goes under your right arm. That's right. And then the primary goes in this hole. All the holes are the same. Well, they're not all the same, but you can't put them in the wrong hole. So there's your primary, comes into your mouth. What's missing? Oh yes, we need the BC hose. Where do I put the BC hose? Right here. The BC hose has to come over your left shoulder, so that goes on this side, screws into this hole, and let's see what we have here. Let's see if this is going to work. And I'm having a little trouble screwing here, Kevin. There we go. Okay, so there we go. So let's just see. Okay, we got the primary on the right, safe second on the right. That's good, good. And now we have the BC inflator on the left and the pressure gauge on the left as well. Well, here we go. Just that easy. Downside? You can't swivel. The swivel function of the swivel regulator has now been removed, largely. There's still a little bit of play in there, but you can't swing it around to change the hoses if you want to. So you just have to be a little more careful when you assemble it that you put the hoses on the right side. Not a big deal. So if this works better for you, then that's what you should do. Let's use that arbitrary figure of 5'10". If you're 5'10" or more, then normally put it upright. Take full advantage of the swivel function. If you're less than 5'10", or if you're finding, even with the BC mounted fairly high on the tank, where the tank drops, same thing, it's still bumping your head, then get the store staff to change your regulator. One of the benefits and one of the small things, this isn't in the book. They don't explain this anywhere. So maybe this has been educational for you. By the way, I wanted to show you this pressure gauge. This is an SPG and a compass. No depth gauge. Oh, what good is that? Normally, your SPG has pressure gauge, right? Depth gauge and compass. This only has a pressure gauge and compass. Well, what good is this? Well, this is very simple. These are very popular because a lot of people have wrist computers. They're not air-integrated wrist computers. That is to say, the computer on the wrist does all their depth and time calculations to make sure they're safe with regards to the no decompression avoidance, but it doesn't have built-in air pressure. It's not air-integrated, so they still need an SPG. But there's no point in carrying around a depth gauge. Look, your depth gauge is here. You don't need a depth gauge. Look at how nice and small and compact, flexible hose. So these are very popular. If you have a wrist-mounted computer, then you can get just an SPG and a compass. Just reduces the weight overall, makes it more convenient. Get rid of stuff you don't need. It's my thoughts anyway. Okay, I don't know if this has taught you anything, but maybe it has. Maybe you got some ideas. Maybe you have a sore in the back of your head, and this is really important. You'll be calling your dive store this afternoon. Okay, I hope it's been valuable to you. Keep those comments coming in. I love them. And ideas as well for more tech tips, things that bother you. If they bother you, they bother me, and I'll see if I can't come up with an idea to help. Alec, Peirce, Scuba 2000 Tech Tips. Talk to you soon.